the new information is that Deebo isn't going to be on the field this offseason until he gets an extension. We don't know if he's even going to be in the building. What do you think?
Oh, is it that he's not going to be participate in any offseason activity? Was that reported?
Yeah, until he gets an extension, he won't be on the field, and we don't know if he's going to show up just to like be there for OTAs.
Okay.
We'll have to find out when that
Okay.
happens
Right,
on
right,
Tuesday.
right.
Yeah.
That part of it is
Yes.
not true. I mean, I what different did you expect? Just because Fred Warner showed up and George Kittle showed up does not mean Deebo Samuel has to show up. These workouts are voluntary, and he's well within his right not to show up.
Also, he might show up. He might show up.
Although,
We just know he's not going to be on the field. He might show up. We don't know. We'll
although
find out
if
Tuesday.
I was gonna say if I was him, he gets I think he has a 50K bonus for showing up. I mean, I understand in the grand scheme of things, the money he's gonna make 50K is nothing, but it's still 50K. I'd show up, take the 50K, and then chill. Don't do anything.
Anytime you can make 50K just by showing up, you got to do that. If you're beyond that in life, you got to look in the mirror. I want 50K to show up. I would
Me
show up.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Give it to me
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think
But
is interesting is like, oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. So what I was gonna say was generally like I think right. You hit on it. It's interesting. I mean, we can go through this topic. I don't want to keep rehashing things we've talked about because we've explained already
Right.
why this negotiation is going to be exceptionally complex. I think we did it last week. Then we
Right.
did
Of
it a
course, we've
month
done that.
ago. We did it twice. We've gone past that, and we have to look forward now into what kind of happens in the future. And to me, the biggest question is, okay, Deebo Samuel is not going to participate in the offseason workouts. Let's take it a step further. Let's say he doesn't show up. Does this put any more pressure on the 49ers to try and get the deal done faster? Because I think at this point, the way we're looking at it is
The business perspective.
from the business perspective, we feel that, hey, at this point, it is not contentious enough where we think an extension will be reached, but that's us on the outside looking in. I mean, if this continues, then you would have to think that there's other possibilities the Niners would explore because the negotiation just continues to be ongoing. But at this point, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not worried, but I'm not so worried that like I'm thinking in my head when I have other stuff to do. Oh shoot, Debo still hasn't been signed. If that makes sense from the fan perspective, like obviously, if things were good and dandy, then the contract would be done and we would be not be having this conversation. But here we are having the conversation. But it's still April, so the Niners still have a large time period to go through this negotiation and get him paid. The issue to me is the timing, right? And Debo, I kind of appreciate Debo. I know a lot of fans don't, but I really appreciate his authenticity and his just being himself and not acquiescing to what other people did before him or what other people are doing after him, sticking to what Deebo Samuel wants. And Deebo Samuel wants to get paid, and Samuel wants to get paid now. And to me, that's where the conversation becomes interesting is how will the 49ers react to this? Because let's say he doesn't show up, the Niners, maybe try and call his bluff, and then he doesn't come to the first part of the offseason post the draft, the OTAs and stuff. Then I wonder because he's such an integral part of this offense, because the Niners are installing an offense with a quarterback who has gotten indications that he'll be the guy, Grant, indications. And because of those indications, right, he's going to be a first-time starter. He's going through this full offseason as a starter. It would behoove the 49ers to have their best offensive player going through the entire offseason process with him so that they can get as many reps as they want together. So from that standpoint, does it put pressure on the 49ers to say, like, hey, like, we got to get Deebo Samuel done? And to me, that's the point in the offseason because, like, Trent Williams, right? And that's the one I keep going back to because Trent Williams put this kind of pressure on the 49ers in a different way, and he did it by attacking the open market. And then when he got the big offers in the open market, he was able to use that to kind of leverage himself and say, "Hey, Kyle, I'm gone if I don't get this deal." And Shanahan then immediately made sure that Trent Williams got his money. Would a similar type of thing happen with Deebo, where Shanahan comes in and he's like, "Yo, like I understand you guys want to save a couple $1,000,000, but I need Deebo Samuel on the field this offseason because that's how I can win football games with him and Trey Lance." And with that, then maybe pressure into Deebo Samuel getting a deal in May. That's the money he wants.
Okay, that's very interesting. Here's what the angle I'm looking at it. Tell me if you're here with me. What's
Mhm.
interesting about this is that Deebo's not the only one doing this. Right. There are 4 wide receivers who are up for extensions right now with their teams. Deebo's one of them. There's also
Mhm.
Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown. And all these guys are really good too. Now, Deebo just had the best season, but these guys have had great seasons too. They're
Right.
all going to get big money. And Deebo and AJ Brown are the same agents, Dandy and Sexton, Tory Dandy and Jimmy Sexton. DK Metcalf is also with CAA, but they have different agents. And then you have Terry McLaurin, who has different agents entirely. What's interesting about this is Terry McLaurin has already said he's going to show up. He's not going to participate, but he's going to show up. And what did he say? Because he's a leader. And
They played the PR angle, right?
of
They said
course,
he's a team leader.
of
So don't get
course,
mad at Terry McLaurin for not participating. He's coming
exactly,
in, he's showing leadership. He just
exactly.
is trying to protect himself till he gets the money.
Frankly, if
But
I
he
were the
played the
agent, I
PR
would
game.
tell him to say that. That's
Yeah.
probably what the agent told him to say. I think is smart because that keeps the fans on your side. It doesn't polarize.
Right.
We see
Right.
what Debo's going through right now because most fans don't care about the business side. Most fans just
Right.
want to buy your
Right.
jersey and go to the game and just fight about who the best player on the fight about
Exactly.
with the other team, like, oh, Debo's the best. No, yeah, like you're taking that away. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What I want to say is it's interesting what McLaurin's done. He's taken one tack. We'll see if Deebo takes it. What's the most interesting thing to me is that him and AJ Brown are the same exact agents. So let's watch and see how things unfold. The
Jimmy
big
Sexton is a huge agent, by the way.
huge,
He's
huge,
one of the biggest quarterback agents out there.
so if Deebo doesn't show up, AJ Brown probably won't show up, and that's a decision by the agent, and you can't really hold Deebo responsible for it other than he hired this guy. But here's the main difference so far between Deebo and AJ Brown, with the same agents. AJ Brown didn't take his pictures down. He didn't scrub his Instagram. And it's a small thing, but it's a public thing. And to me, that indicates that was a Deebo thing. Because I can't imagine Dandy and Sexton saying Deebo do one thing, AJ Brown do another. Although that's
Right.
just
Right.
that's an assumption.
Right.
That's an assumption on my part.
And I think the Instagram thing where it becomes interesting, right? Because we've gone back and forth. I do not believe it's childish. I do not believe it's unprofessional. I don't care what anyone says.
Let me say something real quick.
But okay, go ahead.
My question is, will it help him in terms of business? Will it
We don't
actually
know.
help him?
We
Yeah.
don't know. And my entire point was, well, he's a brand on Instagram and he's publicly expressing himself and he gets
True.
paid $0 to market,
True.
because when Deebo Samuel looks drippy in his 49ers jersey and everybody's like, damn, Deebo looking fly in those 94 throwbacks, what do they immediately do? They go to the Niners website and they're like, I need to get me one of those Deebo jerseys. Deebo's not seeing $1 in
No.
that. That's the
No.
Niners money. So in my opinion, I don't think athletes should even post the team. Why should they give the team free marketing? Jed York is already making enough money off Deebo Samuel. He should make more off his
I agree
Instagram.
with that. And I think a lot of the fans that watch our show are the kind of fans that would agree with that. Because the fans that watch us are highly in tune with the business side of football. Most fans that go to games, though, most fans aren't, don't care.
Right.
And that's what I think that's where Deebo's should tread lightly because he wants those fans on his side.
Right. And I think that's where the thought process differs, right? Because that's my thought process. So I don't really care. Like I don't really care that he does it. Like, do you?
Yeah, I don't care either. I'm not a 49er fan.
Right. But there are fans, right, to take the other perspective. One thing I will say in his defense is those are the kind of fans, the moment he signs and game one, when he has 70 yards rushing, 120 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns, they'll be right back pumping that Deebo bandwagon. So he knows they're going to come back because they're not, going to be very individual in their thought process. They're 49ers, 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 which is fine. I think the difficulty for him compared to AJ Brown is that it turns a little bit like there's a toxicity to his situation publicly that isn't there with AJ Brown because of it. And then the one last thing I do want to say about both Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown in comparison to their peers, Metcalf and McLaurin in this case, both of them to me have arguments that Metcalf and McLaurin don't, in the sense that they are essentially their team's offense. Like a lot of people thought Tennessee's issues last year were rooted on offense with Derrick Henry's injury. They weren't. When AJ Brown played, Tennessee won. They were fantastic on offense with or without Derrick Henry. And part of it is because they had no other offensive weapons. Julio Jones's ever questionable ankles and quads are now questionable and not playing instead of questionable and playing. They don't have much else in terms of support on their offense. It was really AJ Brown, Derrick Henry centric. And
It's true.
so from that standpoint, they were outstanding with AJ Brown on the field. I don't think you can say that with Seattle because Rashard Penny finished the season exceptionally well. I mean, he finished the season like he was one of the better running backs in the NFL. And Tyler Lockett's a hell of a player. And Metcalf had a little bit of a down year where you couldn't say, oh, Seattle's offense means if you stop DK Metcalf, you can stop that offense. And then Terry McLaurin, he's not in an offense that, one, features him that way, and two, he's just not. He's a little different kind of player from DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, and AJ Brown, who can really, really dominate a game physically. And while McLaurin's an outstanding player, I don't know if he asserts a physical dominance over a game because those three are just absolute freaks in terms of size, speed, and strength, just mauling, just with physicality. And I think that's where Deebo and AJ Brown a little bit defer because they do have that argument of we are the guy on the offense. Everything revolves around us, and from that standpoint.
My last thing I'm curious about with this topic is, will Deebo show up? I know we don't know yet. We literally don't know. He said he won't be on the field. Like, that's legit. I mean, he shouldn't be on the field. We predicted that. But what Terry McLaurin did is kind of
it's the smart media move.
It's how you play the game.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see if Deebo will do it because, look, my feelings aren't tied into it. But from a business perspective, he's already sort of shown his cards. You could kind of know he's a little upset. We don't know how AJ Brown feels. We know Deebo's a little upset. He took the pictures down. He showed his cards. If he doesn't show up, what does that mean? Does that mean he wants to be on this team still? Does it mean he wants a trade? I know he hasn't requested a trade, but I think these are the questions that would go through my mind. What does this mean, man?
Yeah, and I think I mean, personally, I have a little different perspective from where I stand because I understand all of those things and those things make sense. What I actually gain is a lot of respect.
Because again, you'd be turning down $50,000 just to show up and say, I'm a leader, I'm doing everything right. I mean, everyone applauds you and you don't want to go to that. What are you saying?
And it becomes a conversation. It definitely becomes a topic until he signs. But I think Deebo Samuel is telling you there, and that's where I get, because I personally like when athletes are very true to themselves and just express themselves the way they are. I don't really care for, being exceptionally fake because you want people to like you. And I think Deebo Samuel has been real about this entire situation from day one.
I respect
that. Where I would respect it is that he's showing you he understands the business of football. For him, it's not, oh, I want this fan to like me. It's this fan to like me. If he gets his money, he's going to do every single thing to be on the field, and he's going to be professional. He's going to play. He's going to show up every week. He's going to get his job done. But if you don't pay him, he's not going to come in and do this fake and sucking up or whatever. He's going to be unhappy about it. And if it gets contentious, he'll go somewhere else and he'll do the same thing. But he understands the business of football, in my opinion. I think that the NFL
understands it, and
this narrative.
He's like showing us what it is. Like, he's taking us behind the curtain. My only question is, are his methods going to work business-wise? Is this getting him more or less money?
We'll see.
Because the Niners can say, oh, you didn't even show up. What kind of leader are you?
I mean, we haven't.
You want to be the highest paid player in our team? You're not the leader of our team. You didn't even show up.
I mean, yeah. And then the Niners, I don't remember a player in my lifetime really handling business this way with the 49ers. So maybe the Niners are hurt by it or something. I don't know. I mean, again, now we're getting.
I would think they are.
The speculation, right?
But again, from their perspective too, if they capitulate because Deebo got emotional or whatever, however you want to say it, because Deebo made it so public. If they just cave,
a different standard for everybody else when they
they just create the precedent for every single, next player coming up, and it's their agents that would notice anyway. It's very interesting. It's very intriguing.
But I think the one thing we're seeing is Deebo marches to the beat of his own drum. He's very, very individual. It doesn't matter what anybody else has done before him, what people have done after him. Deebo is going to do Deebo. And I think that individuality is also kind of unique in the sense that that's what makes him such a good football player. Because he doesn't care if you give him the ball as a running back. He doesn't care if he has to get the ball as catching screens. He doesn't really care. He's Deebo. He's going to be – that's the swagger.
And I think this part of it is like him wanting to be the highest paid non-quarterback or whatever, even though it's not even – hasn't come out of his mouth, is he's a competitor. He's that competitive. He's that. I mean, to me, what we saw from him last year is he is a Jerry Rice level, Michael Jordan level. Like his drive is on that level. It's A plus. And so that's how these athletes are. I mean, they come with egos. They think they're the best. You know what? Because they might be the best. I mean, are we really surprised?
And his confidence, like
Yes.
you saw the way he talked about, receiving the death threats and the racism. He's totally unshaken by it. He's totally undeterred. And that confidence, to me, week 17 against the Rams, when Jalen Ramsey, or week 18, when Jalen Ramsey hit him early and they were trying to intimidate and not get bullied by the 49ers, the 49ers still ended up bullying them in that game because Deebo was totally unfazed by it. And then the second half, he throws the touchdown. He put the team on his back, essentially, in that game, though Garoppolo had the outstanding drive, which was, the big play in that drive, other than the Jennings touchdown, was a big throw to Deebo Samuel. So I think from that perspective, I think we're getting a lot of insight into who he is as a person. And I think it's interesting. I'm waiting for this to play out because so much, if we take it a step further, so much of it gets into just the speculation of just stuff we can't be sure about until we get a little bit more information. And we will as the offseason keeps going. But I think right now it's exceptionally interesting to view Deebo Samuel and kind of the lens into who he is, and then just to see how the 49ers react to it, because we haven't really gotten a reaction other than the couple leaks that they put out. Yeah,
I'm curious to see how he eventually spins this, because right now it's very open to interpretation. To me,
do you think he does though?
I don't know how this is going to end, man. I'm not. They might trade him, because to me the way this is looking is like he's acting like someone who's burning a bridge. And again, he might show up. He might show up to OTAs and say, I don't know why people assumed all this. Everything's fine, yada, yada, yada. If he doesn't show up to OTAs, he took the pictures down. He looks like someone who's like, nah, they're not going to pay me. They're not going to freaking pay me. This is terrible. I'm going to burn this bridge. I want out. That's almost what it looks like right now. So I'm waiting for Deebo to do something to change the narrative a little bit.
See, I understand why you look at it that way.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it, and I think the lens of that for Niners fans is the lens of, well, we've not seen another athlete with the 49ers really go about it this way.
No.
And my entire perspective is, well, I live in the Midwest. I see East Coast athletes. I see Midwest athletes. This is how they do business.
Yeah.
This is how they do business in the South. Ezekiel Elliott, this is how he did business. It was way worse, honestly, than Deebo Samuel. He was working out in Cabo with Rocky Arsenault and all of that until that deal got done. So
True.
He was putting out videos of him running in the sand and all of that. So I just think of it, it's normal. I think that the Bay Area, and I think a little bit of the media too, kind of cuffs athletes, in the sense it cuffs their expression, because they kind of paint them in a very, very specific way that fans really like to view these athletes only from that perspective. And it's a little bit hero worship. It's a little bit deifying them, but it's deifying them in one specific way, where you can deify them because of their football, but they also have to do but they also are the perfect people that listen to everything the coach says, does everything what the organization says, all of that. It kind of just follows in this very traditional line of what this perfect athlete, quote unquote, though I don't think exists, is.
Good word choice. Yeah.
And that's where I don't think.
That's why what I'm saying, Deebo, I feel what you're doing, man, but you are really going against the traditional grain. And I'm not comparing him to Colin Kaepernick because they don't have anything really in common, but if you piss off a certain, let's call them white fans, the traditional segment, look what happened to Kaepernick. There is you can't, for whatever reason, those fans, that segment, you can't piss them off. And they're just, I don't know. I shouldn't have gone there, but I'm just saying that's what it is. You can't. And Deebo he's a young black man who this segment, the same segment that doesn't like Colin Kaepernick, is going to look at him saying, who the hell does he think he is? You know what I'm saying? It's it sucks that you have to cater to that section of the fan base. Who the hell does this kid think?
I don't think he should.
But it's such a big part of football. And if you want to get the most money, you kind of have to play you got to do what Terry McLaurin's doing.
I disagree with that
Okay.
latter part because I don't
Okay.
think he does need to cater to those fans. Because to me,
Okay.
those fans, the moment he signs, shows
Fair.
up to training camp, the first training camp video
We
of
take
Trey
it back.
Lance hitting Deebo
We take it
Samuel for a
back.
70-yard
We
touchdown.
love you
I
again.
love Deebo. Deebo's the best in the NFL. He understands that business of it. He knows that the fans that are turning on him now will be back when he performs on the field.
That's true.
So he doesn't care for those fans either. I think
That's
that's
true.
what he's telling you.
That's true. We got hard left turn saying we don't know what Deebo looks like with a decent QB throwing in the ball. Isn't it we're seeing what we have? Could always trade later and front load. Yeah, what if
They
what
can
if what
front load
happened
the
to
deal.
Cooper
We
Cup
talked
last year
about it.
happens to Deebo this year? You know what I mean?
What?
What if what happened to Cooper Cup last year happens to Deebo this year? Why wouldn't that happen?
100% possible. 100%
Why would that
possible.
not happen? Everyone
Well,
thinks
I
Trey
mean,
Lance is going to
this
get here and be like,
idea,
you know what?
this
I like throwing to him more. Like, no, Deebo's the best player in the league. No.
this was kind of it's funny. It's funny because it's actually hilarious. It's not just funny. It's hilarious. This notion that somehow the offense was structured a specific way because Garoppolo was the quarterback, and now because they have what everybody views as a better quarterback, their best wide receiver. I almost said wide receiver. I don't know why I said that. Wide receiver would not thrive as much. I don't understand it. Like
All right, let's
Demaryius Thomas was very good the second half of the season with Tim Tebow. What
yeah.
happened when he got Peyton Manning?
It's just not a good fit with Peyton Manning.